Hi guys, I'm Victoria Holgate Kelly. I am the facilitator of the Art Journaling 101 group, Art Journaling 101 class, and the online Facebook group. And I wanted to go through today and just do a really quick video on supplies and show you how you really can do this class just using little bits and pieces that you have around your house. So I'm going to go through some of the things that I've gathered, and we're going to do an exercise that will hopefully help you get your creative juices flowing if the blank page is kind of throwing you for a loop. So I have, this is a mailing envelope. It's just that I tore a piece off. This is newsprint. So this is kind of the same as the packaging, like when you get a package from, let's say, Amazon. This is kind of the stuff that's in there. This, I have a piece of craft paper, which is thicker than some of the others that I have. I have a paper bag that's pretty flimsy. I have a piece of white construction paper. I'm not sure what this is called. It's actually kind of, it's almost like the paper bag. It's even a little bit flimsier. And basically, this is the paper that they use when you're taping your trim and you want to have like that space where you don't get paint on your carpet, I think. I just called it paper's trim paper. I'm not sure if that's the exact name or not. Piece of tissue paper, and this is like really inexpensive tissue paper from the dollar store. I have a piece of printer paper, like just copy paper that you put through your printer, and then I also have a piece of like deli paper, and I order this flat so it doesn't have the crease in it. But something similar, if you wanted to try and find this around your house and you didn't have deli paper, would be maybe like parchment paper. Parchment paper is going to be a little bit different as far as how it takes the paint or whatever utensil you write with. But anyway, we're going to go ahead and start with those. And I'm just going to go through and I'm going to show you some mark making. And what we're going to do is these pages that we do, if you end up liking them, will be the background for some of your projects, and I'm going to show you how that works too. So I'm going to start just, what I do is I do work a lot with that signs and symbols source book, and sometimes I kind of look for symbols that are indicative of the mood that I'm in, or something that I'm working through, or maybe you know, some adversity, something that I'm struggling with to kind of like connect to an emotion. For example, circles can mean a lot of different things, or you know, you might want to do like, you know, if you have a faith-based life, you may want to do like some crosses. Anything. Basically, you're just making marks. This is called mark making, and you're just going to make some marks, and you're going to fill up your pages. I may do like sometimes I do just wavy lines. Now this is with a Sharpie marker. And this is on the printer paper. And see how that goes through. So keep that in mind if your surface underneath is important. You can do X's. You can do a line of X's. I do that a lot. A lot of times I'll do, I can't remember, I don't know, are these called not hashtags, hash marks? I don't know what the technical term is. I do those sometimes. You can do like plus signs, which is basically just an X turned on its side. A lot of times I'll do like a bunch of dots. Just random. Looks kind of like, I call this confetti. To me it looks like confetti. So what I want you to start noticing as you're going through and doing this stuff is, or not, actually, let me say it this way. Noticing and paying attention to is the surface that you're working on and the writing utensil that you're working with. Now, some of the things that we'll do in our class is we may put water on top of our surface. So what you want to think about is your surface going to hold water, if that's what you choose to do? In addition to, when you get your writing wet, will it run? Now, most of it, this is pretty common knowledge. If you have a Sharpie marker, Sharpie markers are permanent, so it's not going to run. If you put water on it, whatever you put on this surface is not going to get, it's not going to get messed up. So, but keep that in mind, because that may make a difference as far as what writing utensil you want to use and what you want to use as your substrate. So this is one page. And you can see, you know, these marks, all different marks. They are permanent. They're not going to go anywhere. So let's do something with the tissue paper. So on the tissue paper, I'm going to use a dry erase marker, and I'm just going to make some circles. Just going to make a page of circles. And again, this isn't about perfection. This isn't about, like, this isn't going to be your whole page. This is about you getting your hand and your brain and your body warmed up. See how that went through? Because that's tissue paper. So, and it is not water soluble, because if it was, that would have come off. So note to self. I'm going to just wipe that up real quick. Let me get a towel. Hold on. You should always have a towel handy, guys. Wet towel. Or a rag. Yeah, so that kind of comes up. So let's do this. With this page, we know that it goes through the tissue paper, that it's seeped through. But let's check it. So this is just a paintbrush with some water on it. Let's see if it's water soluble. So that's dry, and it didn't smear, so that's not going anywhere. That's good to know. And this is what you're doing, is you're kind of building up your practice of what your options are, what are the different things that you can try, and what are they going to do. So that's another. So we did that. Now let's try the painter's trim paper, which, again, I don't think that's the right name, but this is, and obviously this says on here, infinity. This is an infinity marker. I keep going the wrong way. And it's permanent. So I know I won't have to worry about this. What kind of mark do I want to make on here? Maybe I want to do, hold on, I also have, and I will get this to you guys too, this is just kind of like a sheet that shows different line types that you can do. So I'm going to try some of those. I'm going to do just like, I'm going to do some flowers. I'm going to do, I'll do a row of flowers. And actually that one's not working very well. I have a gold one. Let's see what that one does. Let's do some gold. And that doesn't show up great, but it shows up a little bit. Actually, it doesn't show up very well at all. Okay. So, and again, guys, this is not trial, this is trial and error. This is like figuring out what works, what doesn't. So I know I have these metallic markers. I think I've had them for too long and I haven't used them lately, and they're just not, they're not working, and or they're just not showing up on this type of paper. And that's what you're wanting to figure out before you move onto doing your project. So this is a midliner. It's basically just a brown highlight marker. Okay. Now let's see with that highlight marker, let's see what that does as far as water solubility. Is it going to smear when you... So when I get that wet, that may be diluting a little bit, meaning your print may fade a tiny bit, but we'll see what that does when it's dry. But it's not smearing. It's not smearing like... I'll have to find something and show you what I mean by smearing. Okay, so let's do other than... let's do some crayon. So this is just a basic Crayola crayon. And I'm going to do this on the white construction paper. And let's say I want to write... I want to write something that I'm going to put in my art journal that's going to be maybe part of my focal point. So I want to write, I am worthy. I may just want to write a word, love. Let's do like gratitude. Again, this isn't necessarily for the project. This is just for you to determine the supplies that you have and what they do on the substrate. So that was with crayon. Oh, and let's go back and let me show you guys. I know that this isn't gonna smear, but I just want you guys to see. And I want you to do this too. Like I want you to check and see, because I'm gonna show you next. I'm gonna write another word under there with one of my I have some colored pencils. I'll show you the difference between a regular colored pencil and a colored pencil that is water soluble. So let me show you that on here. What can I'll just write my name, Victoria. Okay, so this is a regular Kodak, I mean the kids, you know, school supplies at the beginning of the year colored pencil. Write my name. And then I'm going to take my water and see what that does. Does it run? Okay, so, and this is on the white construction paper. It may like spread your color a little bit. We'll be able to tell better when it's dry. But then here, I want to show you something. So this is a Faber-Castell watercolor pencil. So it looks just like a regular colored pencil, but it's going to react differently. And let me show you. Okay. Let me show you how this is a little bit different. This is going to... So it's almost like, see how that's... You can definitely see that that's spread. And let me go somewhere where it's a little bit. So a watercolor pencil is intended to turn to watercolor. See the difference between this and then what I did over here? That's the difference. And then we'll see what it looks like when it dries. So there's something too. Paper bag. What do I want to write on with a paper bag? Oh, I know something fun that I can show you guys. This is super easy. So if you take any kind of, it can be a crayon, it can be just like a white crayon, it can be, even gray works, just like a more of a neutral color, and I'm going to show you how to do something pretty cool. So on here, I'm gonna write my name again. I'm going to write Victoria. And I'm going to take my Sharpie marker. I'm actually going to put something underneath it this time because that didn't seem like it was very happy with the undersurface. And I want you to watch this. This is kind of cool. So if you go across, and this may be too dark, I don't think it's going to work. Oh yeah, it'll work. So sometimes I use, and you don't have to use a Sharpie marker, it's just what I had in front of me. See how it makes like you can still see my name written? Even though it's dark in the background. And do I love that? Well, no, probably not. Am I going to use that on a page? Yeah, likely no. But I want you guys to get into the habit of playing with the things that you have and getting an understanding of what they do, so that when you do start creating, you're not getting frustrated that things aren't doing what you expect them to do or want them to do, or the way you visualize what they're going to do. So I'm going to use, this is just like a Papermate, one of those felt tip markers. I'm going to do some more, I'm going to do an entire, I'm going to just do some lines. This doesn't seem like it's writing very well. Hold on. And again, I don't know. Yeah, see, that's really weird. So when I use this on this paper bag, it doesn't want to work very well. However, when I just moved off to the side out of the camera picture and wrote on a piece of notebook paper, it worked just fine. So that's what you're figuring out here, is what works, what doesn't. So obviously, when I use the Sharpie marker, that works amazingly well. And we know from using the Sharpie marker before that it's permanent. So watch this. When I go here, nothing. Here, I'm gonna, if I want to put water over that, I'm gonna mess those marks up. And you may want to mess them up. That may be what you want to do. Again, we're figuring out what our surfaces do with the writing utensils that we have. So I don't know if you can see that. I mean, that's kind of cool. It's something you could do. You know, it's, I don't know. Okay, so craft paper. We're going to use a craft. I'm going to, so I don't know if all of you have acrylic paints available. I'm just putting stuff on my surface here. And, sorry, I'm just rinsing my hand off for a second here. Hold on. So that's just, it's just some Martha Stewart acrylic paint. So I'm going to get my paintbrush. I'm going to water it down just a little tiny bit. And this is just like a, you know, kid's paintbrush like that you would get at the beginning of the school year. And I'm going to do some marks on here. So doesn't show up very well. It's, you know, it's on craft paper, and so you're getting an understanding of what works on what works well together, what doesn't. Now, you may want to do something like this. You may not want to have something that's got like a really bold, bright, contrasted background. You may like this. This may be something cool. But the idea is twofold. One, to just start creating and just start moving your hand and thinking about ideas and what you may want to do and what symbols do you like, what shapes do you like. I may do like, you know, a triangle and fill that in. And then if you end up making something that you like, then you have the beginning of a page in your art journal. But this exercise that we're doing, this is not about outcomes. This is about just getting warmed up. So I'm going to, hold on a second, I'm going to clean that up. going to show you something else. So what you'll learn in the class, and I go through and I do different modules, and each module is about adding layers. Art journaling is about layering. It's about starting with a surface and then adding to it until you are happy with the result. And there aren't really any rules. I'm just showing you the process that I use to get from point A to point B. Now some of those are kind of cool. I know they don't show up the way I anticipated that they would. I actually thought that it would show up better. But you know, it's kind of cool. So that's another page. Oh, and this surface was the craft paper. Let's do something on newsprint. So I want to show you, let me see here. We're going to do, just going to do some circles. Oops. Do some X's. Hugs and kisses. Can't go wrong there. Do some plus signs. Do some squiggle. I'm going to do like a wavy line. Do a couple of wavy lines. Let's do some hashtags. And basically what you want to do is just fill up your pages. Just fill them up with whatever. What else do I want to do? Do some zigzags. Okay. Again, and go over this, and we already know, but it's, you know, water soluble, so that's not going to run. So if you're writing something, like if you want to write your name or a quote or something to that effect, you know the Sharpie marker is going to be a good thing to use for that. Just grabbing a different paintbrush here. So this is just guys, these are just watercolors, like cheap watercolor. I think I got them for $3 at Michael's for one of my kids a long time ago. So I want to show you what the watercolors look like. And let's do a watercolor. But let's go over the top. So here's the other thing that you want to keep in mind. We're doing layers. So what layer goes over what? Well, that looks pretty cool. I like the way that looks. That's something that I'm probably going to implement in one of my projects. I really like the way that looks. I like the marks. I like the fact that it goes from darker to lighter, that ombre effect. I like that you can still see the writing underneath. But here, when we go back, that's not going to work on everything. So if we go back to, this is our white construction paper. Let's try that on our white construction paper and see what it does. Again, these are just really, really cheap, inexpensive watercolors. Okay. A little dark. It's not really going to show up. However, what we do notice there is that it didn't smear the writing because it's crayon, and crayon is wax based, and you can put water over a wax base. Let's try a lighter color and see what it does. Let's try this this pink. Try that. Go over. Now that might be a way. See, I like that too. Now that's kind of like this. I really like the way that looks. Because what you have here is you have your wax, your crayon, And then you go over it, and it's almost like what that reminds me of is I'm actually flashing back to when I was in school. I went back to school when I was 45 and got a psychology degree. And I remember, obviously I didn't use a paintbrush, but like Sharpie marker, it reminds me of like what that, and a way of highlighting something. So you do a page, and let's say you write out, I am worthy. Well, let's say your page is about worthiness, and that's what you want to highlight. So then what you do is you can take one of your lighter watercolors, and you want to highlight worthy. I am worthy. But you want to highlight the word worthy. So you can go over that. And it's really cool because it looks like, you know, you're making, so this is a way of making a word a focal point. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. And you guys can let me know if you have any questions. So now this is the kind of the process of layering upon layer, but I want you guys to see what that looks like. So I'm going to go back to my paper bag. Now, I know just from playing around with stuff that watercolors on, I'll do a darker color, see if it'll probably show up a little bit better. But watercolor on a paper bag is going to have, so it's going to have a totally different effect on here than it does on here. Now see how you get kind of like that graininess? On here it's pretty consistent, it's pretty, the color shows up better. Okay, let me do a different color. Let's do a yellow. So see how that's starting to absorb, just the way that falls into the paper because of the way the paper is sealed, I think is probably what it is. And that's totally different than the effect that we got on here. See how that's totally different? So again, same writing utensil, different substrate, and it looks different. So let's, I am going to take, hold on here. I'm going to do crayon on part of this. And then we're going to go over it with some watercolor paint and see what it does. What color is going to show up well? Let's do this one. So what I was hoping, and again, this is why we practice, what I was hoping that this would do, and it may when it dries, we'll see, but where I put, like right here, where I put that crayon, I assumed it would resist, meaning that the paper wouldn't absorb the paint, the watercolor paint, because that wax in the crayon is kind of like a resist. But it doesn't look like it did that. So I'm glad that I checked on that. So here, hold on, let me try something. Sometimes when you, didn't have the effect that I thought it would. But again, I'm just playing here. I'm practicing. You know what I'm doing? I'm sitting here and I'm just being curious about what plays well with what. So do you see as this dries, whoops, sorry, it's getting more of like a chalky finish as opposed to this one that has like that. It doesn't have that same, see how it's got like a different finish. So this is us practicing. Now let me work on this. I'm going to do just like some scribbles on this. I love this color, magenta. It's like one of my favorite colors when I was a kid. So I'm going to go and just, so here's the other thing that's really fun to do. And let me just show you right now. So I'm right-handed. A lot of times when I'm trying to get warmed up and I'm feeling like really stuck, I take my left hand and I just do stuff with my left hand. Like I'm a little kid, like I'm back in kindergarten learning how to write my name and color and draw. The reason I do that is because when you're writing with your non-dominant hand, your brain immediately makes the distinction that I'm shifting to something that I don't normally do, and therefore I have no expectation of it actually turning out. It's a way of kind of letting go of the need to be perfect. So for those of you perfectionists out there, that's a good way to kind of work through that perfectionism piece, if you feel that perfectionism. So this is my mailing envelope, and I'm going to go, okay, this is what I was talking about. So I don't know if you noticed when I did that, but on the mailing envelope, I did the crayon, and then when I put the watercolor over it, it resisted. Meaning it doesn't stick to that part of where the crayon is. So that's kind of a cool thing to know. And then I'm also going to take my brush. Let me see what this paint. So this is my acrylic paint. What does it look like when I go over the crayon? Does it resist? Does it do anything different? What does it do? Okay, I'm going over and just doing a couple of layers here. So what does it do there as opposed to if I just go on here? And see how you can even make pattern marks with your paint. Does that resist? Not as much as the watercolor did. But yeah, so you're just getting ideas. You're just playing and getting ideas of what you like and what you don't. Because you'll look at some of these and you'll go, that is so cool. And then you'll look at others, like, you know, this one, like where I did the Victoria with the Sharpie marker. It looks okay. I like how you can see my name through there because I wrote it out in crayon. But what I didn't like was that the Sharpie marker was so dark. I should have used a different color and it probably would have had a different effect. But the only way for you to figure out what you like and what you don't like is to experiment. And that's all you're doing here, is you're just experimenting. So let me try, so this is my trim paper, the painter's trim paper. And so this is my water soluble